Can you guys see my screen? Yep, good. We're in stage 4. It's big, big deal. So I don't know if I'm more personally excited or as a parent in Albemarle County that it starts to feel like a return to normalcy. I know it's been almost a year, and it's pretty amazing to drive back to the school and send my kids.
I'm good. How are you?
They're super psyched. And if I talk more about it, I'm going to cry, and that's not how I want to do this. And it's also pretty amazing that we're having some awesome spring-like weather. So I think that that's definitely boosting at least our family's moods, and I hope everybody else's. And it's also just, I mean, we're turning a corner here with getting a lot of teachers vaccinated, and it feels like we're coming out of a hard time here. So I know there's still a long way to go, but just like a lot of the other PTO meetings, we like to start with a lot of positive things. And these are some definite praises that we have in our house this week. Okay, we have a standard format for this PTO meeting, just like all the others. We're gonna go through a lot of the PTO business, and then we'll get a chance to hear from Seth and Dee Dee Leach, and I think Miles is gonna speak as well. And Megan Argo, our parent council rep, should be here to give us an update on how things are going on that end before we get going with Allie and her presentation on anxiety. And as always, this meeting is being recorded. And if you have any questions, you can send them to Noelle Jorgensen, our vice president, in the chat. And at the very end of this presentation, if you have questions for any of the different parts of the meeting that were talked about, all of them will be brought up at the end. Nicole, you want to go first with the treasurer's report?
Sure. Yep. Can everybody see that? So not a whole lot of change from the last time, but we have received $108 from Amazon Smile, which again, I say is a fantastic way to do a passive donation to the school without it affecting you. You just change a setting in your app on your phone is the best way that it works. And I'm sure I have contributed a lot to that with ordering everything on there, including Whole Foods, I think, which now also will, when you do your orders for Whole Foods through Amazon, I think that also helps. So that's a great way to do that. And Harris Teeter also is another one. We've also had some great response from Five Guys and 10. For the Spirit Nights, people have been ordering, and they've been really generous in continuing to support us. And still some teacher reimbursements are trickling in. And if any teachers are on here, please, if you don't hear from me, if you've submitted stuff, please just print it out, give it to me in paper to make sure that I get it. We want to make sure that you all get the funds that we've promised you for this year to support your work. And otherwise, I think that is all that's changed in there. I do have some Spiritware money, about $30 for some additional things that we've sold. So anybody that's interested, I believe that's on the website. Is that correct, Allison?
Okay, yep.
So I think that's it.
And there's going to be a couple of things fundraising wise that we're going to be talking about in a little bit. And those have been recent additions in the last month. So that's why they're not listed here in our budget spreadsheet, but we've just been surprised with a couple of different opportunities.
Right, that's correct. Yes, I didn't add the two things yet.
That's okay. This is still the standard format from before.
Yeah.
Jessica?
All right, I'm just asking for a motion to approve February's minutes.
I'll motion for that, Jessica.
Okay, and can I get a second, please?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And as always, these minutes, you can see the minutes written down on the PTO website, but you can also watch the recordings. We've got a YouTube channel, and those are posted on the PTO website, as well as they go out in the newsletter the week afterwards. Okay, so we're going to roll through a couple of different business items. And the first one is teacher appreciation and a couple of things that we have going on and have been working on this last month. Noelle?
Yeah, we're super excited about being back in school, and to show some of the excitement, I think Seth already mentioned that we had a group of people chalk the walk to welcome everyone with some colorful pictures, and there's just a few of the ones we had a lot of really good colored pictures. So we hope everybody enjoyed that. On top of that, we had some very generous donations as well as the PTO donations that helped stock the teachers lounge. And there's a picture of that with our beautiful "We Love Our Staff" banner. And we also stocked the fridge with drinks as well as the snacks that are on this picture. And then we have an exciting thing coming in the middle of April. We are getting a food truck, Carpe Donut, to come to the front of the school so the teachers can grab a coffee and a donut, and just another way for us to show our appreciation. So we continue to figure out ways to make our teachers and our staff feel loved, and I hope they're enjoying it.
Thank you. Okay, Cassie Morrison has been heading up our bingo nights, and she's actually unavailable this evening, but the last one that we did was such a success. Everybody that joined seemed to be having a really great time. So we're doing another one in April. And just like last time, you can RSVP the number of players that are coming from your family to Baker-Butler volunteers at Gmail. And the purpose of this is just so that we can send you a link with how to sign up for a free bingo card. And you can play from your own device. When our family did it, we had our computer set up. So we had the Zoom happening and we could see what was going on with the bingo card. But then each of the kids was playing on either a phone or their iPad, but you could also print out your cards if you'd like to play that way. And each person that registers will get 2 cards, so you have more opportunities to win. And we have lots of donated prizes. And since it's right before the book fair, we are going to have a lot of book themed prizes. And then there's also several like little token things that are going to go along with some of the book prizes. But we also have the joy of having both our entertaining principal and assistant principal calling for us. And I think that was probably the highlight for it for so many people last time, just because Seth and Christine are a hoot. And speaking of the book fair, we are so excited. This was the last event that was scheduled to happen before COVID hit last school year. And we were in the process of setting this up when schools were shut down. So we are thrilled that the county is allowing us to pursue having a book fair this year. It's going to look different in a lot of ways, but we want to talk to you all about it. And like so many other events, we're going to be needing volunteers. And I'm going to be walking us through the homepage for the book fair in a minute and showing you how you can sign up to volunteer. But if you remember what it was like to come get your laptops and your other school supplies back in the summer, you're going to come through the bus loop, and we're going to have the book fair carts set up outside, and we're going to schedule 20-minute shopping appointments. And so we're going to limit it per the number of folks that are allowed at that time for gatherings. And we're aiming for about 30 people per 20-minute time slot. And there's going to be COVID safety measures in place, just like there are for when you take your child to school. We're going to do temperatures, and masks are going to be required. And social distancing is something that we're going to be mindful of as well. And we're going to, keep a record of who's there, so we have appropriate contact tracing. But we can still shop the same books that Scholastic would have sent us last year to the fair, or this year to the fair as well, if we were set up in the library. And in terms of volunteers, we're going to be looking for at least 6 volunteers needed for each shopping time. So for instance, Monday is open from 3:30 to 5:30. We're going to be looking for 6 volunteers because we need some people to help with checkout, some people to help with helping families find their books and getting them through the line. And also we're going to need a couple of people at the beginning for just checking up on temperatures and hand washing and masks and making sure that everybody's checked in appropriately. And if you remember from last year, the e-wallet is a way that you can set up payment online ahead of time. So you could maybe give, let's say $20 to your kid and they just have an online account set up, which is Scholastic calls it the e-wallet. And that's a really easy way to do contactless payment. And again, I'll show you that on the website here in a second. And you can do that starting March 29th. But the other really cool thing that we're excited about for this, tying to teacher appreciation, the teachers can create an e-wallet, and we're going to encourage our staff to do that so that parents and families that want to buy a book or help build the classroom library for their teacher, rather than buying a book and giving it to their teacher, which may just be complicated to help, or to have a teacher create a wish list. What we can do, the PTO is just going to be gathering these e-wallet accounts, and then we're going to send them out to all our families so that you can just go in and donate money straight to your teacher's e-wallet. And that's a great way to help support your teachers that way. And then also, if you're unable to make any of these shopping times, you can just use the online fair, and that still benefits the Baker-Butler book fair, as long as you shop within that online window of April 14th to 27th. So we will have a link to this in the newsletter, but here is our homepage. And on it, you're going to be able to find all the details, the dates. You'll be able to see a book flyer with some of the options that they're going to be sending us. This is a reminder of the different times, and to be sensitive to the car drop off and pickup. We are opening this at 3:30 in the afternoon to give ample time for the buses to clear out and for the parents in the pickup line and dismissal to clear out. But we also wanted to be sensitive to families that may not even get off until 6 o'clock in the evening. But knowing that Friday, we've got families, or there's no school in person, so we were able to open the fair a little bit earlier. And if you're interested in volunteering, you go to this orange tab, click sign up, and you need to have created an account. I'm going to show you how to do this. It should be quick.
Allison,
Yes,
am I the
ma'am.
only one that's not seeing it?
Oh, maybe so.
Yeah, I think that we see the book fair slide, but we don't see the link that you just hit.
Okay. Thank you.
Just have to reshare your screen and choose that new window, Allison.
Okay. New share. Thank you. Can you guys see this now? Okay. Well, you missed me signing in, but that's pretty standard for a lot of websites. You're gonna go to sign in. All right. All right, do you see this now? Pretty easy. And looking for volunteers for, this is just the first day. This is just an example. And if you can't commit to the whole time, that's okay. You can, at the very bottom here, Jennifer Crawford, she's helping organize the book fair with us, and you can just contact her if these times do not suit you. Okay. And then later, starting on March 29th, you'll be able to set up your e-wallet here. I'm not going to click on it just because you can't start it yet. And same thing with the online book fair, but this homepage has everything that you're going to need for the book fair. Okay. We back to the book fair. Can you guys see that? Awesome. Thank you. Okay, the other thing that we've got going on that we're super excited about is we're joining with Hollymead Elementary for a magic show over Zoom. And this is actually going to be at the end of the month. So we're closing in on just a few weeks left to purchase your tickets for this. I don't know how many people are familiar with Wes Isley. He's actually very, very well known. And I'm going to send a link to this in the newsletter on Monday. He fooled Penn and Teller, two of the most well-known magicians in Las Vegas. And I watched the video today. It's pretty cool. He's actually come to our house a couple of times and done birthday parties for our kids. And we've seen him in other fairs and community events around Charlottesville and around this area in Virginia. He's awesome. He and his wife and their kids do magic together. And he's going to be setting up in the Baker-Butler cafeteria on our stage. And this is going to be a joint fundraiser with Hollymead PTO. And it's going to be over Zoom, but you can buy your tickets online. So $20 will be good for the entire family. And you can send the link to anybody because it's over Zoom. They don't have to be in Charlottesville. And the money that we're raising is going to go to fund virtual field trips for Baker-Butler students, which we're super excited about. Noelle, this is another fundraiser that we've got going on, and Noelle's going to talk about it.
Can you guys hear me? Because my internet's going in and out. So are you able to hear me? Okay. I'm just talking about the flower fundraiser that has been kind of a fun little event, fundraiser that one of the teachers actually recommended to me. And we've already raised $400 for the PTO. So basically, when you go to buy your spring flowers website, and the PTO gets everything that's purchased, and then you pay a flat rate and it gets shipped directly to your house. So it's been a lot of fun. The flowers, hopefully everybody will have success in planting them, but
well, we lost Noelle for a second, but the last thing that is important to
parents is what I say. What was that?
Try it one more time, Noelle. Say your last couple sentences.
Okay. I was emphasizing that you can send it to people outside of the area. So hit up the grandparents to purchase some flowers on the sites and then get them shipped directly to their house. So hopefully we can continue. We have until May 1st to place orders. So share, and we can earn a little extra money for the PTO.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, last order of business here is we want to talk about recruiting for the next PTO board for the year 2021 and 2022. As we've mentioned before, each of the people in the board positions, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer, we're at the end of our 2-year terms, and we are looking for new people that want to serve on the board, and 2 people can actually serve in each position. And the job descriptions have just recently been posted on the PTO webpage. So we would like to encourage you all to check that out, to reach out to us personally and ask if, just set up a time to talk and find out a little bit more about what our job entails. I think that there's so much more that goes into it than just what's written down on paper. And I think that each of us would really just encourage lots of other participation. We've found that the more people that have come on board, not PTO board, but just come on board with the team and serving and all the different capacities that we can get involved here. I think that it's made our own personal school experiences and our kids' school experiences been more positive. Me personally, I have really found that's helped me get to know my students or my kids' teachers and just know the kids that are in their classrooms, whether that's volunteering and taking cupcakes in for their birthday or helping in the spring carnival a couple years, just any little thing that can get your feet wet. I think it really has helped make more of a positive, homey experience for my kids. And I have loved being part of the PTO. And the funny thing is, and I have this great meme that I saw yesterday, I want to show you this. We talk about this a lot, that the PTO stands for Parent Teacher Organization. If you're a parent or you're a teacher at Baker-Butler, you are already part of the PTO. And so when we talk about electing people to the board, there are people that are going to be on the leadership team, but everybody, every single person at this school is involved in the Parent Teacher Organization. And the other thing that I've found that this past couple of years board has really done a good job of promoting is that no matter how busy you are outside of your school experience, you have some gifts that you can share. And everybody has a strength, everybody has a gift, everybody has a talent, and has some way that they can contribute to the school community that we're a part of. And that could be baking cookies, that could be running copies, that could be stuffing mailboxes. And I know I'm talking about a lot of things that aren't necessarily relevant right now with COVID, but the point is there's something that all of us can share. And so there is a tiny bit sense of urgency just because we are coming to the end of our term, and we do need to be looking forward to the next school year, because it's important that this organization continue, because we are in a position to get to take care of our teachers and to get to take care of the school property and enhancing the educational experiences of our kids. And we don't want to see the board members roll off and nobody continue to run this organization. So I just like to encourage you all to think about it, talk to other people, feel free to mention other names to us, and we'll just continue our recruiting efforts. Seth, love to hear from you.
All right. Thank you. First off, a big thank you to everyone for your patience and support as we transition to another phase 4, which is the one that we've all been looking forward to. So this week, we're very excited to continue virtual learning for about a quarter of our students, but welcome back 75% of Baker-Butler students back into the building, which is a massive undertaking for our staff and for our community, but as well as our parents to those logistics. So our staff just wants to say thank you. The PTO has been incredibly supportive, and our parents have been very gracious as we've gone through this process, and the teachers got to come back to a lounge filled with snacks and a fridge stocked and really nice notes in the walkways they walked in, which is great. So right now we have about 460 in-person learners, which is, I think we're second largest in the county behind Brownsville, which is a lot of students for our school. And our school was designed to hold up to about 700 students. So we're well under capacity. However, our car rider line was designed for about 10 cars at a time. So we expanded that to about 16 at a time last summer. When we thought this was coming, I had to expand our sidewalk. But to give you some perspective with that, last year at our peak, when there started to become a shift between bus riders and car riders when the pandemic was starting, which is a year ago, I believe Sunday is our last day in school. Our peak was about 40 cars a day. And today we counted 186. So it takes a little bit longer, but we still got all our students out today by about 3:04. So we just want to say thank you to our parents for your patience as we do that. But just so you know, in the morning, we are doing quick health screenings of all our students, temperatures and hand sanitizing. In the afternoon, we are very carefully matching up the right students to the right cars, which takes a little bit of time. So we appreciate your patience. Some families have reached out and said, okay, I've experienced the car rider line. Thank you for that. I want to get my child on the bus. How do I do that? And just call the office and we'll get you on the wait list. There are capacities for the buses that are a little bit different because of COVID. We use every other seat unless they're in the same family. But we do have space on all our buses still. So if you're interested in that, it takes about 2 weeks to route. Call the office and we will get you routed. Just as we kind of go into stage 4 now, we're also looking ahead to next year. And we did get our preliminary budget from the county already, and we are in very good shape at our school. It looks like we're going to add 2 classroom teachers. We are going to expand 4th grade from 5 teachers to 6 teachers. And then we're also expanding kindergarten to be permanently at 6 teachers. So what that means is we are hiring, and we always have some teachers who may retire or move away. So if you know any amazing teachers, and we will only take amazing teachers, send them my way. I love to talk to them. And we also have 2 teaching assistant openings right now of teaching assistants who are working virtually, and we need some more in person. So anyone who's interested in doing that or in substitute teaching, send them my way. One of the interesting things about the pandemic is no one's applying for jobs. So if anyone is interested, send them our way. We are able to staff our building and everyone is cared for. However, we are a lean operation. And if a teacher gets sick, it's very difficult to find a substitute teacher. So we need all the help that we can get. And that's about it. Just a big thank you to everyone for your patience. I have office hours every Monday from 11 to 12, and it's in the newsletter, but you can always reach out at any time to ask questions, and we're being as responsive as we can. But again, this community has been incredibly supportive of our teachers, and our teachers have done just an outstanding job. I can't even tell you the hours they put in last week to prepare for Wednesday. And even today, our dismissal is normally over by 2:45, and at 3:15, our teachers were standing there smiling and making sure everyone was where they need to go. So it's just a great team to work with. Any questions I can answer? All right, well, thank you. And I'm here if any questions come up.
Thank you, Seth. Okay. Next, we've got an update from our teacher representatives, Dee Dee and Randy.
Hi, good evening. This has been an exciting week. As Seth has said, it's exciting to be back in stage 4 and to see all the students in the building almost normal. So that's a great feeling. And just one of my highlights this week, as I was getting ready on Wednesday, early, I was walking my dog, and one of our students ran out of the house and was like, Miss Leach, this is my first day of school. And just to hear that excitement and joy to be there was just amazing. So that was, I guess, one of the many highlights for the week. But I also wanted to say again, thank you to our PTO. We do feel your support and love. And as I just sat here and listened to your reports, you guys are working extremely hard to support us and to support the learning of our children, and really, really appreciate it. And I'm just in awe. So thank you.
Thank you. It's cool how excited the kids are to be going back. That's really awesome.
One thing I want to say is that Dee Dee can jump in, but it's very, like, I know because we're not having visitors in the building, you don't see it. It is a very just normal. It's just a typical day. Like, besides the masks and the desks look a little different, like, kids are happy and laughing and playing and joking, and it feels good. It just feels the same. And we were wondering, stage 3 gave us an idea because we had a lot of students back of how it would go. But I got to tell you, like, everyone is taking it in stride, from our preschoolers to our students with special needs. Like, the masks are not an issue. Kids are happy. They're following the rules. Everyone is so thrilled to be back. I was in a 4th grade class today, and the teacher made a joke about using ST Math. And one of the students said, I am never looking at a computer screen again. Like, they're so ready to be back. It's really fun. So, I mean, it took a lot of energy to get here, but we have so much more energy after being around kids again for a few days. So we're excited.
It is awesome. And waiting in the pickup line, I had a student say, yesterday, I want to come back tomorrow. And I'm like, yes. So good things are happening.
That's awesome. Thank you for all that you're doing. I know that the amount of flexibility and all the hoops that you guys have had to jump through as teachers, and the ways that you've flexed has been just mind blowing to me and to a ton of parents. So please, I hope you all know how much we appreciate you, and your efforts are not invisible, because we know that you're having to flex and change constantly. And it's very impressive, but also we are so, so grateful. The way that you welcome everybody with open arms and enthusiasm and just endless energy is awesome. So it makes a huge difference to our kids. Miles?
Yeah, absolutely. But I do have to share the story too, because it was just amazing today. So, little kid, like, as we're walking out the door, always ask the kids, like, "Oh, did you have a great day today? Or did you have a good day today?" They're like, "Yeah, I had a great day." It's like, "Oh, awesome. What's the best part about today?" He's like, "Everything." I was like, "Oh, it was just very heartwarming." But, and with that, and now bittersweet announcement, I guess. I have been interviewing, and Albemarle County has created a new position for a coordinator for mental health and wellness. And so over the past few weeks, I've been interviewing and accepted the position as Albemarle's new coordinator of mental health and wellness. So I'm very excited to kind of spearhead the new position and coordinating all of our mental health services for the county of Albemarle County schools, if I can even say Albemarle County schools. But it's something I'm very excited about. But with that, one of the unexpected portions of it is that my last day with Baker-Butler is unfortunately going to be April 2nd, I think. So my first day is April 12th, but we have spring break in between there. So I am unfortunately going to be leaving Baker-Butler a little bit early, but my daughter already acts like she owns the school, so maybe she'll pick up for me.
No, you know what? It's adorable that Miles now, as a 12-month employee, thinks he gets spring break off. So
I don't.
Well, you're going to still be taking care of us because since you're mental health coordinator for Albemarle County Schools, we're still in Albemarle County and we definitely still need you, and you're a parent. So maybe you could run for PTO next year.
I think he would be an excellent vice president. I will say, just on Miles' behalf, he's been an outstanding counselor. I've worked with a lot of counselors over my time, and his energy, as you see, it's nonstop, but the kids just respond to him in a way that you rarely see. And the position that he received is one that the whole time I've been here, we've been advocating for, because one of the hardest things that we deal with as a school is when a student needs outside services for things that don't necessarily happen in a school day. We're not a therapeutic setting. We do kind of counseling groups, but we don't do ongoing therapy. We kind of pass students off to outside providers or pass information to parents and hope that they follow up. And now for the first time, we're going to have someone in the position to make sure that happens. And it's going to be Miles, which is awesome. So we wish him well. We want to thank him for all the work he's done at our school. But we know that you're going to see some definite changes in the county because of his hard work. So thanks, Miles.
You'll be missed, Miles.
Thank you.
Megan, are you on here? I know she had a meeting that was going to go until close to the start of this, so I wasn't sure she was going to be present. I should know this, but I didn't see who all came on. Seth or Noel, did you guys let Megan in?
Megan is not on.
Okay, all righty. Well, then I'm going to skip her report because I don't know what it is. Okay, Allie, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and introduce you.
Okay.
Allie Harshaw, you guys, is a parent. I don't know how many of your kids are still at Baker-Butler.
Two.
Two, okay. And two of them are at Sutherland?
One at Sutherland and one at AHS now. So I'm managing 3 schools.
I'm gonna, if I make you a co-host, you can share your screen, right?
Yes, I would love that.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm gonna turn the floor over to you.
Okay. So let's see, share screen. Hold on here. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? You can. Okay. Okay. So I'll apologize in advance. I'm going to kind of be going back and forth between 2 computer screens today. So as Allison said, my name is Allie Harshaw. I've got 2 daughters still at Baker-Butler, 2 at the Sutherland and Albemarle High School. All of my kids, all 4 of them, were lucky enough to start with Randy Wellborn. So she set a great start for all the kids. She's still a favorite teacher for sure. So a little bit professionally, I'm a licensed family therapist been serving Charlottesville area since about 2005. And then a few years ago, I started to provide the clinical supervision for school counselors who were going through the school counseling program at Curry, and kind of fell in love with school counseling as I was providing their clinical supervision. So I found myself being an intern a few years later at Baker-Butler with Miles and Welby. And Miles, I'm excited for you. You were a great counselor there. My kids loved you, and definitely a good teacher for me. So the last 2 years I've been working as a school counselor, a year at Covenant and then a year at Jewett. And then this year just off with my kids at home. So with that said, I have done absolutely nothing professionally since last March. So you guys are kind of my guinea pigs tonight. And I think I'm feeling what my kids felt going to school today, a little bit of that anxiety, but excitement at the same time. So we will dive right in. And I get kind of oddly excited to talk about anxiety because I think it's so important. So many of us experience it, so many of our kids experience it. And so I have a lot of information to share tonight, and realizing I might not get through it all, and that's okay. So today I was thinking, what do I really want you guys to walk away with? So I tried to come up with 5 or 6 takeaways that I want to make sure not to miss tonight. So the first one, I'm going to skip the first one, but really talking is good. So, we're not always aware when our kids are going through things. And so just kind of throwing out pebbles all the time and opening up conversation, letting them know that we're available to talk and we're willing to talk. Lots of times we kind of shut down difficult conversations, but it's really important to have ongoing and open communication with our kids, whether it's in the classroom or at home. As I talk about anxiety tonight and the strategies, it may sound as if I'm oversimplifying things. And so anxiety strategies are really simple when we look at them. So there's things that work, there's things that work quickly, but working through, as many of you know, as parents, working through anxiety isn't always easy. So our house and our family dynamics have often been fueled by anxiety with especially my 2 older boys. And so the strategies are simple, but it's not easy to work through. It's kind of like, other things, whether it's losing weight or getting in shape. We know the strategies, we know what we have to do, but it's not always easy to get there. Survival of the busiest. The way we think, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in terms of, our thinking part of the brain, our cortex as being one route to anxiety. The thoughts that we are continually running through our minds are the thoughts that are going to, take center stage in our life. So I like to call that survival of the busiest. So sometimes just making that shift. And as we look at our kids, what tends to be the thoughts that they're expressing the most, and how can we make a shift in that, and then replace, don't erase. So oftentimes when our kids are struggling with anxiety or fears, we tell them like let's just stop thinking about it, and that actually makes them think about it more. So as a parent, sometimes I've had to have note cards next to my kids' beds at night where we're not talking about erasing the things they're worried about, but replacing them with different thoughts. So that's a really important component of this. And as we talk about this year, it's obviously been a really hard year. So, that there's, unprecedented levels of stress and anxiety this year. And as parents, as teachers, as school administrators, as kids and students, we've all really had to step up to the plate. And it's a time where we weren't able to prepare our kids for any of this. And we're just having to take it one day at a time. So in not being able to avoid these challenges, oftentimes we try to help our kids avoid challenges. We really have this opportunity to find resilience and help our kids to find coping strategies and resilience through this, which can be really hard. So the impact of anxiety on school behavior, performance, and learning. I'm sure everyone's pretty familiar with that, but our emotions clearly drive behavior. So finding strategies to help decrease anxiety can really help school behavior, performance, and learning. As I'll talk about in a little bit as well, when we're anxious, the whole frontal, the cortex in our brain, which is the thinking part of our brain that helps us learn algebra and helps us, to learn grammar and things like that. When we're anxious, that thinking part of our brain gets turned off, where the survival brain takes over. And so really we're not able to learn when we're really anxious at school. And so it's, again, really important just to find some strategies to kind of help calm that anxiety down so that our kids are able to learn. And then just obviously, sounds a little cliche, but this year's a really important year for us to all have grace and show grace and demonstrate grace. For, my sister's a teacher and she gets so upset with parents when they send in their computers uncharged. And as a parent, I'm like, I just am lucky to get them out the door, and so having grace for each other, for our parents having grace for teachers, for administration, and for our kids who are just kind of trudging along in this murky water with us. And also self-compassion. So our kids are looking towards us to see how we are responding to our own mistakes, to our own, I blew it that time, and to have compassion for ourselves and to show that compassion and compassion for those around us and our kids. So those were kind of my takeaways. And I am going to turn my clock really quickly so I can keep an eye on, let's say, the time. I'm in no rush. I'm happy to leave here when my husband gets all the kids to bed, but I know that 8 o'clock is kind of our target time, and not to mention Biden's speaking at 8. So, so let's start with, anxiety being normal. Let's see. So obviously everyone experiences anxiety. It's a normal part of being human. And we all experience it to different degrees. So clearly, I might bring up my kids a lot, so I apologize for that, but I have 4 kids. 2 of them are geared much different than the other 2. So everyone experiences anxiety, but some to greater degrees than others. It's programmed from birth, so it's part of kind of our evolutionary brain. So like, for instance, when kids learn to crawl, that's when they start to develop their first fear of heights. When kids are learning to walk, that's when they first develop, you'll notice separation anxiety come into play. So there's these natural developmental anxieties that our kids work through that really are there just to protect us and keep us safe. And so sometimes those can, misfire in certain situations, which we'll talk about, but anxiety is normal. It's there to help us. It's there to help us survive. Other examples that can cause anxiety in school age kids is riding the bus for the first time. And maybe you guys, have experienced that this week, going to school for the first time. And I know with one of my kids, it definitely was not his first time at school this week, but just re-emerging back into the school environment was really stressful and hard for him. Asking a girl to a dance for the first time, things like that. There's just all these normal developmental anxieties that they just have to push through. I tended to try to protect my kids from those things early on because as parents, it's hard to watch our kids struggle. But at the same time, we're kind of robbing them from the opportunity to push through and do hard things. So let's see. So I'm going to kind of breeze through this a little bit just to honor our time, but common fears of school age children, there's obviously a big gap between kindergarten and 5th grade, but as they enter elementary school, they're kind of moving from those magical and egocentric ways of being. They're losing a little bit of the anxieties with physical pain anxieties and shots and doctors and separation anxieties. And they're kind of moving towards anxieties about world events. What can bring harm to me? What can bring harm to my family? And those are the more typical anxieties of school age kids, which with the pandemic, that's obviously a challenge. I like to say this is the age of what-ifers. So for those kids who start a lot of questions with what if, this age, kids can use a lot, their cognitive functioning is getting to where they can imagine situations more, they can imagine the future, and they can imagine, bad things happening. So, with what if, I say what if is always generally an anxious question. And with working with these kind of what-ifers, it's always nice to take the what off and say if. So an example of maybe anxious what if is, what if I cross the street to play with my friend, and when I cross the street, I get hit by a car, or, so there's lots of these what ifs from this age. Let's see. So clearly anxiety is normal. It becomes problematic when there's nothing really threatening them. There's nothing really threatening their well-being or their family's well-being, but the child is reacting as if kind of there's a grizzly bear on their heels. So maybe the fear of being called on in class to them feels like a grizzly bear. Maybe, taking a test feels that way. Maybe getting homework done or worrying about what kind of grades they're going to get feels much bigger than it should feel. And so that's when we have to kind of start talking about, are there some interventions or coping strategies that can help? Let's see. One thought I had on there is for kids that do have a lot of these worries and going to school, the school day can be really hard to get through. I can remember my son getting off the bus, and literally he would walk off the bus and he would look at me. We live in a very kid-friendly neighborhood, and he'd look at me and he'd say, "Mom, I don't want anyone to come over today." And it was just like he held it together all day long, and he just needed to come inside and decompress. So for some kids, it's really hard to get through the day. When it becomes problematic, no amount of reassurance helps. So there's some kids that generally, when the anxiety is a little bit more developmentally normal, we can help reassure, and the kids will accept that as comfort. When kids are really, really anxious, there's some kids who will ask, 15 times before bed, Mom, are you going anywhere tonight? No, I'm not going anywhere. Are you sure you're not going anywhere tonight? And so when they're kind of seeking this constant reassurance, their anxiety level's probably a little bit higher. Avoiding or refusing situations, that can be really tough on parents to keep their kids in situations that are really anxiety provoking for them. And when it causes a disruption in daily life. So, we all function in these systems. We function in a family system. We function in systems in the classrooms, within the school. And I know in our family system, when one of my kids is really struggling with anxiety, like the whole system just kind of feels it. And so when that whole system is kind of getting off balance because of the anxiety of one of our kids, or when we're finding that we're really feeding that anxiety, maybe the anxiety is a little bit more in need of some intervention and help. And obviously, if the distress is getting the best of your child. So how to help? Talking, as I said, I won't belabor that. I said, don't shut down worry talk. And I have a really good example of this that I did yesterday. My son went to high school for the first time, and he got in the car, and he has a tic, and he's sitting in the car next to me, and I'm like, wow, this must have been a hard day. And I said, how was your day? And he was like, it was terrible. And the first thing I said to him is, you know what, it's going to get better. And right there, I caught myself being a parent, wanting to reassure, not wanting my kid to kind of feel these difficult feelings. And when I caught myself, I changed it and I said, buddy, what was challenging? What was the challenging parts of the day? And then for 45 minutes, we were able to talk about the challenging parts of his day. We were able to talk about, okay, well, if you get lost tomorrow, like you did today in the hall, here's some things you can do and some things you can try. So I think some of our first instinct is to kind of shut down that worry talk and say, you know what, it's going to get better. You're going to meet so many friends, and to try to be kind of like this positive, but sometimes kind of toxically positive with I think I said a little bit earlier, but throwing out pebbles. So how do we talk about anxiety? How do you bring it up? I think, with kids in the school age, just reading books on feelings. In my house, we do what we call rosebud thorn. Maybe some of you guys are familiar with that. And I think when I did some groups at Baker-Butler a few years ago, we did a lot of that. And just it's honoring the fact that there's good, bad in every situation. Anxious kids are usually very black and white thinking. Things are all good, all bad. So with Rosebud Thorn, it's an opportunity to say, like Isla today, her rose was seeing Lainey, Miss Holly's daughter. Her thorn was having it take so long to get out to the car. And then a bud for her, which was really awesome, was going back to school. But sometimes it's just a fun way to kind of open up conversation with kids and allows them to talk about things that they might be worrying about. One of the best things we can do with anxiety is to reduce overwhelm. So, our kids have so much coming into them all the time. There's so much input always coming in. The input might be mom's in a bad mood. The input might be all the kids around them during the day. But there's so much input all the time. And kids who are anxious really tend to feed on that. And another really helpful thing with anxious kids is to build connections. Obviously, with all of us, building connections is really important. Let's see, I'm going to skip through a bit just to honor the time. Demonstrating faith in their ability. As a parent, that was really hard for me. So as a parent, sometimes we want to protect our kids from doing hard things. Like if our kid's nervous about riding the bus, we'll just drive them. It's fine. If our kid is nervous about maybe meeting the neighbor next door, I'll go over for you. And so we try to protect them from these challenges at times. And what we're sometimes saying when we do that is that we don't believe that they can do it. And that was a really powerful moment for me when I realized that I was doing that with one of my kids, is just kind of sending that message, just like, I'm not sure you can do this. Let me do it for you. So just demonstrating that we have faith in their ability to handle tough things, right? And then not making excuses or allowing them to escape developmentally appropriate challenges. So obviously, if it's full of fear, we take baby steps, but just these kind of normal developmentally appropriate challenges, try to help them push through. So we have about 8 or 9 minutes left. So this is the part that I find really interesting in talking about anxiety. Essentially, there's 2 pathways to anxiety. So there's the amygdala, which my kids would die right now if they saw me get out this glove. So this is a little brain glove, which I love using with kids. They would laugh at me right now. So I love you guys, I know you can't see it, but when I do talk with kids about anxiety, I show them the amygdala in the brain. This is the brain. And if you take your finger and you point it through your ear and you go through your eye, where those intersect is essentially where your amygdala is. And so your amygdala is really the fuel center for anxiety. So let me scroll down a bit here. Feel free to stop and ask questions. Like, I don't have to keep going. If I'm running way too fast, I'm happy to stop and ask, I'm happy to stop and answer questions, or I'm happy to do that at the end. Okay. So there's the amygdala, and that's putting out the fire. That's once the anxiety is kind of in full swing. And then the other approach, or the other pathway to anxiety, is talking about the cortex. And that's really the top-down approach. So I like to think of working with the cortex as our preventative work for anxiety. And this is so helpful to talk to about kids and talk about kind of their cognitive distortions and what creates a lot of the anxiety for them. So we'll touch base on this a little bit. To me, it's so helpful to help people understand how anxiety happens, because there's a lot more buy-in to interventions when they understand what's going on. So, there's nothing more irritating when you're upset or angry, or your heart's beating and you're sweating, and someone tells you to take a few deep breaths. It just doesn't seem to connect unless they really understand what's going on in their body. So let's see here. I'm just going to scan through here. So one important thing to remember is, once your amygdala is activated, which we'll talk about what happens with that in a minute, talking rationally and having them think through the situation isn't going to be helpful, and it isn't going to work. So once they're kind of in that fight or flight response mode, and you can tell they're clearly anxious, the talking doesn't work. And so I think a lot of us at those moments might try to talk kids out of it, or might try to help them kind of see the irrationality of what they're going through. But that's at the moment where we just need to find ways to kind of calm their sympathetic nervous system, so that they can calm down to be at a point where their thinking brain is turned on again. So no talking when they're anxious like that. So let's see. So from an evolutionary standpoint, it's our amygdala that kind of helped us to survive. I like to say that we are the descendants of scared people. And the way I talk about this with kids is just talk about the movie The Croods. Most kids are really familiar with the movie The Croods. And Grug is always saying, never not be afraid, and darkness brings death. And, our brains, we are the descendants of those people who really relied on their amygdala for survival. And so that usually resonates with kids when you kind of bring things that are meaningful for them into it. So what does the amygdala do? So most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with fight, flight, or freeze. So when we're confronted with a threat, whether it is a lion that's out to get us, and we have 5 minutes left, I'm going to move fast, whether it's a lion out to get us or whether it's a test in a class, our amygdala sends like these warning signals, and a physiological process happens in our body. And this part is so important because at this point, it becomes very physical. So our heart starts to pound quickly. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. Our breath gets shallow, our muscles get tense, our pupils dilate, which is, helping to focus in on that threat that might get us and that might hurt us. Our digestion shuts off. So I've experienced this many times when I get anxious. So your digestion shuts off in order to send all of its energy to your limbs so you can, fight or run. And when your digestion system shuts off, you get sick, you get nauseous. So when kids say they're nauseous, it's like, it's for real. It's not something they're making up. Well, sometimes obviously it is, but with anxiety, it's not. Their digestion just shuts off. Their bladder constricts. So, I remember my son in middle school, his teachers were like, he's going pee all the time. And I'm like, that's that component of anxiety for him. Our salivary glands, they stop producing saliva. So, as people are speaking, they're kind of taking those sips of water to keep their mouth wet. And all of our attention just focuses on what needs to be done to survive. And so when that happens, the thinking part, like I said, shuts off and all the energy goes to your survival brain. So there's no thinking, there's no learning happening here. There's no comprehension of anything that's being taught. You're just kind of in this survival mode. So we have, Allison, do you think, should I stop here for questions? Should I keep pushing forward? I want to honor time.
I think probably stopping for some questions would be great. I don't know. I kind of wish I could see your slides and see what else you have coming up.
So let me just, okay. So basically to calm the amygdala, we're just talking about doing physical things. So we're talking about breathing. Breathing exercises work faster than Xanax. Xanax is a medication to help calming anxiety. And it really does, like it taps into your parasympathetic nervous system. And when kids understand that, they're more willing to do it. My son had a SOL a few weeks ago and he came home and he goes, Mom, I got so stressed out and I stopped and I took just a few deep breaths and I was like, yes, I was like, finally it's setting in. So there's physical things you can do to help reset the amygdala. And I think that's important to know in the classroom and at home. So basically the other thing is the cortex, and that's the thinking part of our brain. The thinking part of our brain creates our realities. Lots of kids get stuck in catastrophizing and thinking that everyone's talking about them, or, that really black and white thinking. So there's all kinds of cognitive distortions that happen in our cortex to create anxiety. And cognitive behavioral therapy is something that's really helpful to kind of reset those maladaptive thought patterns. So I've rushed through a ton of this. I think this is my last slide, but really we have to remember that, our brains are made to change. And so the more we practice things, the easier they get. So the more we practice breathing, the more we practice mindfulness, which could be another really great talk at some point. But the more we work towards changing our thought patterns and learning things to do to kind of kick out that anxiety, the easier it becomes to do it. So I will stop there and answer any questions if anybody has any.
I have a question, Noelle. I don't mean to skip you, but back at one of the earlier slides, you were talking about, if you see some of these things in your kids kind of reached a point where it may be beyond parents helping their own child. How do you recognize that, and where do you turn to? I mean,
Sure.
what's your next step for intervention?
So, these are all things we can work on with our kids, and these are all things we can do with our kids. But I will tell you, when I suggest things to my kids, we've been in and out counseling to get help. Just like when I try to do math with my kids, they're rolling around on the floor screaming, and I know they don't do that with their teachers. And the same with counseling. Like, I know these things, but if I try to tell my kids to breathe or put on a mindfulness video or something like that, I don't get as much buy-in as if there's a therapist working with them. So, part of the reason I went into school counseling is there's such a gap in families being able to find really good support through counseling, because the seasoned therapists are all charging out-of-pocket prices. So families who don't have resources, they're kind of getting the new counselors who are, still working on licensure. So I have a list of great therapists in the community that we have personally used as a family and have really helped us, that I'm happy to provide. But it can be tough to get into some of them. And that's what's really hard. And that's kind of what inspired me too, to get into school counseling is there's such a gap in finding good help when you might not have the financial resources to do it. But Allison, I'm happy to put together a few names for both, low cost care and
That'd be awesome. I just wrote down to follow up with you and get a list of your names. And when you and I talked last week, you had a list of some books and some other
yes.
things. So I don't know if it would make sense to put it in the chat, or if you could just email me links or the list of them, and I can put them on our website and in the newsletter on Monday.
Yeah. And, on that, I feel like as parents and as teachers, when we're faced with all this anxiety, we kind of get into this like deer in the headlights, like, I don't even know what to do. And I know with my boys, I was like, why is his body doing that? I have no clue what to do right now. And getting counseling for ourselves, almost like coaching,
right?
It just, you feel so empowered that in this moment as a parent, I know what to do right now. I know how to handle it, and I know it's okay. I know it's going to pass. And so I think it's really great. I have a few books that for parents are just helpful. So they're like, you kind of feel like, I got this.
Yeah.
I can do this.
One of our previous speakers was actually a parent coach, and my husband and I just finished a course with her last night, and it was really great. I mean, we went into it because we know we've got, a bunch of kid issues that we've got to take care of. And it's just really nice to be told as parents, yeah, you may have been in this for, over a decade now, but here's some things that you can keep doing. And we're retraining our own brains, like you're talking about here.
Yeah. So there's there's a book called Rewire the Anxious Brain. It's phenomenal. So it's Allison, you just kind of triggered that for me. I really like You and Your Anxious Child. It's awesome. It breaks it down into the different anxiety disorders, whether it's PTSD or OCD or generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety. It breaks it down and kind of a lot of the do's and don'ts of parenting kids through that, which again, it just kind of, as parents, makes us feel like, okay, I got this. It's not triggering our own anxiety when we feel like we have the skills to deal with it. So,
and also just talk. I mean, talk to each other, because you're bound to talk to somebody that's experiencing similar issues as you.
Definitely.
Allie, there was a question about medication and at what age to put kids on medication and how you monitor what age to start.
Sure. I think that's a really personal decision. And I think that's a really good decision to talk with your pediatrician with, obviously, or your therapist. But one of my views on medication is, if we had talked about it, it might make a little bit more sense. But when you are so anxious that your cortex is offline most of the time, and that thinking part of your brain is offline most of the time, and you're functioning from that survival brain, when you're that anxious, you're not going to be able to learn strategies. So you're not going to be able to learn like, gosh, I was doing that catastrophic thinking again. And you're not going to be able to learn that because you're so anxious. So sometimes medication is helpful to kind of calm the system so that you're open and ready to learn how to deal with your anxiety. And again, it's a very personal decision. And for every kid, it's different, but sometimes medication is helpful. I'm a big proponent, obviously, of counseling. And I think medication and counseling is the best pair for a lot of kids. But I think medication without counseling, my personal opinion is we need both. Kids need to learn the coping skills to get through anxious moments, and kids need to learn resilience and like kind of just personal competence and feel like they can handle hard things. But sometimes medication settles the system enough that they can be open to learning those things. So
I wanted to say, I'm a parent with a kid that has anxiety disorder.
Hi.
And my child is on medicine for anxiety. And she also does counseling. So if anybody ever has any questions, my daughter's in 4th grade. Feel free to reach out. I'm Randy Wellborn, but Allie also has worked with my daughter while she was at Baker-Butler. And she was fantastic. So if anybody ever has any questions, I'm happy to share because I've been through it since kindergarten. So, but I agree with Allie, like the medicine plus the counseling. I wouldn't do one without the other, I think, for my child, but it's been
really
very helpful.
Yes, thank you, Randy. Really, with these anxiety disorders, you don't want just talk therapy, you want cognitive behavioral therapy, because that really works on challenging kids to face their difficult situations and get through them. And it gives them the coping strategies like, okay, I'm going to do this situation. This is what I can do when I'm anxious. I know that anxiety is going to build, but I know I can also get to the other side of it. So that's, cognitive behavioral therapy is kind of the key word if you're looking. And as Randy said, I've been through, I have one of my sons has been diagnosed with OCD, and I have another son with Tourette's. And I think I remember Randy in your class, I'd be like, I need to pull Jesse early on Fridays because he is a mess. But I'm an open book too, and I'm always happy to talk to anybody if who's going through it. It's tough, and we revisit it, and my kids are anxious but happy. So.
Her kids are great.
I have a specific questions for you, Allie. I have a child that has food allergies, and she has specific anxieties about situations where she's not exposed but around her allergen. And I'm wondering if there's a counselor that might specialize in maybe nutritional stuff.
I can look into that and see. I think that kind of goes back to our what ifers, and the best thing to do with kids who are like, man, what if I get next to someone and they have this, is to turn that question in. If you're in a situation where this happens, then A, B, or C. Let's do A, B, or C. And to just kind of really go through that. I don't have any kids with food allergies, so from a personal experience, I can't speak to that. I do have a really good friend who has a Facebook group where she addresses a lot of these things, and she actually wrote a book on food allergies, and I'll reach out to her. I'll just give you my email. If you email me, then I'll get back to you. My personal email is jimandallie2003@yahoo.com, and I'm happy to connect you with her. So it's Jim, JIMANDALI 2003@yahoo.com.
Okay. I don't see any other questions in the chat.
Sorry to rush through that last part there. That's the really exciting part to me on how the brain works with anxiety, because I feel like it just helps us to understand the interventions, kind of empowers us to be like, I got this, I can do this. So.
Thanks, Allison. That was awesome.
Sure. Thank you, guys. Thanks for letting me talk. It's been a year since last March. So
you weren't rusty at all. Looked great.
This was good for me.
You did great. And we can lie to your husband that you're still talking if
I
you're
was totally thinking that. I'm not going out till it's completely quiet out there.
Yeah.
So
Smart.
Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you all so much for participating, and we'll have this recorded and posted on the newsletter and on our website. You can look for that on Monday, and reach out to any of us if you have any questions about any of the events that are coming up. Make sure you get your tickets for bingo night and the magic show, and check out the flower fundraiser. And we're going to be hitting everybody up for a book fair. So thanks for participating tonight. And Allie, as always, thank you so much for helping us this year more than ever. So,
Thanks.
take care, you guys.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye, Randy.
Bye, Randy.
Bye, Randy.